Welcome to the Get Unbusy Podcast. I'm your host, Kate Philpott, and this podcast is all about throwing your busy work out the window. You deserve to stay locked in on the parts of your business that light a fire under your HOO-HAA, all right? The passion-driven freedom lifestyle, not being glued to your laptop every waking minute of the day. It's time to build a business that works for you, not one that works you into the ground. So, let's get unbusy, shall we? What is up? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to Lord knows how we got here, but it is Q2. It's Q2. Oh my goodness. I am feeling incredibly refreshed and ready to fucking go. I've set some 90-day goals for this quarter and I'm feeling like everything in my membership is just like, it's just really coming to a juicy point now. So that's what's going on here. I'd love for you to DM me and let me know what your 90-day goals are for Q2. Let's cheer each other on. Fuck it, why not? So the life update for this week. I've obviously been keeping you in the loop about people buying apartments. My brother buying an apartment with his girlfriend and my boyfriend buying an apartment and the fact that I'm going to be moving and stuff. But the story does not end there. So between my brother and his girlfriend living in the apartment they're renting right now and being able to move into their new place, there's going to be a few months where not that they're going to have nowhere to live, but they're going to be living with us in my parents' house. And that, I can tell you, is going to be probably pure chaos, but in the nicest way, you know, like I'm actually really looking forward to it. She's going to be heavily pregnant at that point. Maybe they'll even have the baby when they're still living here. I'm sure they don't want that. I'm sure they'd probably want anything but that, which is so fair because, like, you know, parenthood for the first time, I'm sure is intimidating enough without having like an audience. But it also means we have like clearing space and storage to do before that because they're going to have literally everything they own with them. And then obviously like loads of cleaning and stuff. When it starts, I'll actually be in Poland, but I'll come back to a very full household. Anyway, that's the life update for this week. It's not exactly happening right now, but I did just find out about it, so. But moving into the topic for this week. This is the task management episode. So genuinely, the main issue people in my audience come to me with is overwhelm. I have way too much to do. I have more tasks than I'm able to keep up with. I'm trying to work harder to catch up with the end of my task list and I just never seem to get there. And fair, this happens. But the first thing I need to have a look at when a client is overwhelmed is their to-do list. And here's why. The problem with a to-do list is there's no limit to how much you can put on there. So there's no point where you ever realize just how unrealistic it is. This can be quite a shock when you're like, well, fuck. Why do I have 50 things to do this week? Where did these come from? Why did I keep adding to this to-do list? Like, your to-do list is honestly lying to you. It's making you think that you can get all of that done within a given time frame, and it's just not possible. And that's okay. So back a couple of years ago, before I had a real handle on this, I had a weekly to-do list of about 70 tasks. Oh, it's like a dagger to the heart when I think about that now. 70 tasks. Now, if you have 70 tasks to do in a single week, you're not going to just catch up with that by working harder. I tried that. I tried that for weeks, months at a time. Honestly, definitely more than a year. It never worked. I never got to the end of that to-do list. I never caught up. I always had to put stuff into tomorrow, into next week, and I never reached the end of the to-do list because it's just too much. And when I had 70 tasks, I was having a conversation with my boyfriend at the time and I was like, I just can't get it all done. And he was like, okay, next week, cut it in half. And I was like, you're fucking insane. There's no way I'm going to be able to cut it in half. But I did. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Oh my God, I had a much clearer mind that week. I got actually, ironically, way more done. I actually got way more done when I committed to not doing as many things. Isn't that wild? There are reasons for this, and I'll go into that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about the exclusivity of your task list. We are really unrealistic with how much we can actually get done. We always think that we can get more done in a given time frame than we actually can. And it is kind of a rude awakening when you realize just how much you have to whittle this down. So the way I want you to see this is I want you to view your to-do list as an exclusive guest list to a VIP Hollywood party. There is a guest list. There is security. It's not like any old Teresa can just walk in off the street. And that's exactly what your to-do list should be like. You don't just let any old task join in. The party's full. No one else is coming in. Another analogy that I like is if you think about Harvard Law, that degree, right? That course, they get like 8,000 applicants each year. And they can only let in about 800 students. Can we talk about the difference in supply and demand there? Only 10% of the people who want to get into that course actually get in each year. And that is the level of exclusivity I want you to have with your task list. So anytime a new task is threatening to come and join the to-do list, you're not just going to be like, yep, okay, that's on my to-do list now. You're going to be like, wag your little finger at it and be like, no, hold on a second now. Prove yourself. You can't just waltz on in here. I want you to prove yourself to me. Give me the goods. Tell me why you should be here. Give it the sass if you need to, but it does come down to not every task is going to get done, particularly in a single week. And just like Harvard Law, there is always going to be much more demand than there is supply. There's always going to be way more tasks than there are space for tasks. Now, as for having more tasks than you have time to do the tasks, overwhelm. Big, thick, vascular overwhelm. You know the feeling when you have more tasks to do than time to do it and everything feels chaotic and you're so overwhelmed you can't even bring yourself to do anything. You know what that is? Completely fucking normal. Okay, so let's not shame ourselves here because it does happen. The way our world is working and the way we are being wired these days is that being busy is a badge of honor and you should be busy. And if you're not busy, you're a waste of fucking space. Obviously, taking things extreme here. But there are so many reasons these days that we end up with having more to do than we're able to do. Overcommitting when we get really excited about a work project and you're like, oh my God, I just want to write this entire book in the next month. Oh, okay. But you got clients to deal with and you got a membership to run and you got admin stuff to do and you got all the social media stuff to do, insert all of the things. Oh, and you also committed to speak on 10 other people's podcasts. Okay. We tend to get really excited when we see that we could get a particular result out of a particular thing. And we often take on more without assessing where our capacity is at. And sometimes it feels good, and it does feel good initially to go, oh, yes, I'm so excited about this. I'm going to just bang this out. But a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and the initial dopamine has worn off. And now you find yourself in a point where you're like, okay, I'm not as excited about it because I'm just in the thick of it, but also the dopamine has worn off and I am still just sitting here with all these commitments. And this is where you have so many things on that to-do list and you're looking at the to-do list and you can't even bring yourself to do one of them. Because by doing one thing in any given period of an hour, let's say, you've also got all of these other tasks that you are intentionally ignoring for that hour. And you can't bring yourself to ignore those things for an hour. You just look at that to-do list and you're like, okay, where's a quick win? What can I get done right now? What can I do that's not going to take loads of brain power because I'm so overwhelmed. I don't have any brain power in me right now. If you've experienced this, I'm sure you're nodding along wisely. And just know that it is a normal experience, especially with the way our world is built right now. But that doesn't mean we have to be a slave to it. The number one thing is to ruthlessly ruthlessly prioritize. When I say prioritize, I don't think people realize just how mean and aggressive I want you to be with this, okay? I want you to be like, oh, I've got 70 tasks on my to-do list. Nope, I'm doing 30. And yeah, it is probably going to give you like a tightness in your chest for a minute until you just realize that, okay, actually, this is my moment of surrender. There is no point in trying to do 70 tasks in a week because I'm not going to get it all done. And all that will do is just fuck up my focus for the whole week anyway. So even the things I do work on, I don't get done properly anyway. Ain't the vibe. So what you'll do instead is you'll pick one most important thing for the week. Use the priority game dashboard for this. Put all of your tasks in for the week, and I like to use it for the day. Like if I feel like I've got more tasks in here than I'd like for today, then I will put all of my tasks in for the day and I'll put them against each other and have them fight to the fucking death. Who comes out on top? Whichever comes out on top and beats all the others, that is the most important task. That's the one that you focus on. Nothing else matters until that is done. I understand some things are urgent, some things can't be, put off. There's live calls you got to do, there's client work you got to do, there's deadlines. I understand that. But in the grand scheme of things, you got to get so micro with what is important for you to do. But if we're going from like 70 tasks to 30, you're going to be choosing them with intention rather than just picking any random task and just moving on something random. You're going to pick what's right. You're going to pick the ones that move the needle the most. You're going to pick the ones that are actually the most important. And that's where your energy is going to be channeled rather than getting to the end of yet another week and being like, what did I even do this week? Because yes, I was working all week, but still the most important things I needed to do aren't done. So what is that about? And like I said, most people don't realize just how aggressive I want you to be, just how ruthless I want you to be with the prioritization. I'm not saying get rid of 5 tasks. I'm saying cut that bitch in half. Like I said, this is an exclusive VIP guest list. No old Teresa is just walking in, waltzing on into your Hollywood party. You've got to be at a certain level to be accepted in here. Call it right or wrong, but it is what it is. You've only got so much time, and this is where we can really narrow down. Obviously, I talk a lot about systems and streamlining your busy work and admin and stuff like that. But one of the best systems you can possibly do is just saying no. Just saying, hey, I'm not doing you right now. I'm not doing you this week. I'm not doing you this month. You're actually not important right now. That gives you more time than any system because you're not even giving it a second thought. You're not wasting your brain capacity on it. It's done. It's done because you're surrendering by saying it's not going to get done, and that's fine. Now, something my members often struggle with is, okay, but how do I choose? How do I actually choose when I've got so many tasks? This is, well, first of all, use the priority game dashboard. It'll help. But even then, you're going to be like, okay, I've got this task versus this task. What's the inclusion criteria for the task list? What gets to stay and what gets to go? And genuinely, this is where clarity on your goals is going to be super important. If you have like 10 goals right now, that's great, but that's going to lead to like 10 tasks for each goal, and that's going to make it hard to prioritize because, it's all important because it's all related to all of my goals. What is your one most important goal right now? Okay, now what task is going to move the needle? What task is going to make my life easier? All related to that one goal. That's the most important. Then, of course, you're going to have tasks with varying levels of importance. You're going to have tasks with varying levels of urgency, and you're going to have tasks with varying levels of leverage. When I say leverage, I mean like it's a system kind of, like it makes your life easier. You do 1 hour of this thing and it saves you 10 hours in the future. That's great. That's leveraged. So it's those 3 things. If there's any task in there that's really important, really urgent, and highly leveraged, bitch, that is number 1 because that's a rare combo. If it's a triple threat, oh my God, do not put that one off. Even if that's the one that's the most intimidating to you, Yes, I understand. The most normal experience in the world. We're not here to pick the easiest tasks. We're here to get shit done in a way that's going to actually move us towards our goals. So, importance, urgency, and leverage. Now, in an ideal world, you'd be looking at prioritizing the ones that are most important and most leveraged. But I do understand that we have urgency sometimes. I do understand sometimes there's a deadline that's today and you have to do that thing today or you're going to let somebody down. Yes, we will do that today. However, in the long run, I would urge you to look at why the structure calls for urgency. And the reason I say that is when we talk about the grander concept of getting unbusy, when we talk about that concept, we want to look at getting to work and not having to work. I don't know about you, but the feeling that I have to do something right now is kind of constricting. Like, it makes me not want to do it. If I feel like I have to do something right now, I'm not going to want to do it. If I feel like, oh, I've got all day and I can work on this thing and it's going to move the needle and it's highly leveraged, so it's going to make my life easier, I'm like, this is the vibe. This is how I want to work because, oh. So on the macro scale, we're like, okay, let's work out as much urgency as we can. But on the micro, sure, sometimes you're just going to have to do the urgent things. From there, focusing on leveraged things are going to make your life easier as the weeks go on. Focusing on the important things are going to make you reach your goals faster. But then you also have to think, when you focus on the leveraged things, you're going to have more time in the future to progress faster towards your goals. So this is where an order of importance kind of comes in. Depends on, are you really in need of more time right now? In which case I would say focus more on the leveraged tasks rather than the important tasks. Or if you're like, you know what, I'm good for time right now. I have a normal amount of hours that I'm working each week. Cool. We want to focus on progressing you towards your goals because you actually have the capacity to do that. So focus on the important ones. I would love for you to not be run by urgency because that's not a fun way to run a business. That's not a way that feels fantastic. Like, whoa, I have to do this thing today. Someone's waiting for this thing from me and like it just feels a bit limiting and icky. And I know that that's not the level of freedom you were craving when you started this business because that's not freedom. That's urgency. Urgency ain't freedom, baby. Okay, so to wrap up, right? Task management. No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing right now, you probably have more tasks on your to-do list than you should. If you feel like you're constantly working, always doing, and never getting to the end of that task list, this is where I want you to ruthlessly come in. Honestly, it's like spring cleaning. Like, you know when you go through your room and you're like, I'm getting rid of half of my shit. That's what you're going to do with your task list. Most of that shit isn't going to do the thing that explodes your business. And yet, it's contributing to your overwhelm. And yet, it's contributing to your workload. And yet, it's contributing to you dripping drops of sanity everywhere you go and running out of sanity. Not ideal. Okay, so the last thing I want is for you to be in overwhelm. And if you are, get rid of most of the shit that's on your to-do list and your mind. How do you choose? Ideally, we're not going to be putting urgent tasks up at the top. Ideally, we'd be putting either leveraged or important tasks up at the top, depending on your capacity right now. But there should always be space for you getting work done that is not related to urgency. That's not related to someone waiting on something from you. But it's the needle moving work that moves your business forward, that gets you in front of more people, that explodes your income because you figured out a gap in your offer suite or something like that. Okay, so this is where we're at. If you often find yourself in a season of overwhelm, it does not have to be this way. This is one I want you to re-listen to. And the last thing I'll say about ruthless prioritization is, if you think you've prioritized enough, if you think you've whittled down the amount of tasks enough in your to-do list, you probably could whittle it down more. When you think you've ruthlessly prioritized, you've probably just prioritized, and you need to work in the ruthless part. And I want you to really hear me when I say that, because like I said, most people don't realize how serious I am about this. This is not a joke. So obviously the perfect resource for you from this episode is the priority game dashboard, whether you're using it on a scale of your weekly tasks or you're using it on a scale of your daily tasks. Get those tasks in and make them fight for their place on your to-do list, because that to-do list, there should be a lot more demand than there is supply. And you're the one who's in control of the exclusivity of that to-do list. Okay. Go on, have a fantastic week. I will chat to you next Wednesday. See you then. All right, gorgeous. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Get Unbusy podcast. If you got some juicy golden nuggets from this episode, I want to hear about it. So take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at More to Life Kate, because your girl wants to know. And remember, you're an absolute powerhouse. You can create the life you've been dreaming of, and I can't wait to see you pop off. Chat to you soon. Bye.